Gentlemen, I wonder if you could share your thoughts on some of the pitfalls to avoid in employing front and back end technologies. Ed, do you have any thoughts there?
I think in the back end, it's a question of readiness in terms of, is your data in a state that it can do the things that you want it to do? I think not everyone is prepared to either analyze the data or transform it in some way or put it in some kind of environment. Machine learning is a great example that it's easy to buy into the benefits of machine learning, but there's a lot of analysis and preparation that has to be done before undertaking any machine learning project that's not a toy. And that people don't realize the amount of kind of homework you have to do before you engage in that kind of a solution. The other thing I would say is that, you know, tech talent is hard to find. I think that, you know, there's such a great variety of back-end technologies right now that I do think you have to ask, you know, will I be able to find the resources in these areas, especially ones that are very hot right now? And will we be able to cultivate the right kind of culture around the use of those technologies? On the front end, I would say that it seems to be all JavaScript now. There's much more interest in JavaScript-based components than there is in sort of what we used to call like web pages in terms of, you know, reporting HTML with interleaved data in there. And now there's a lot more components, you know, Angular and React taking over the world, it seems, in terms of the front end. I think the pitfalls in the front end is that, do you have, again, the resources? That it's one thing to have a full stack developer who's kind of iffy with the front end, but the front end is not very demanding. The markup in CSS is its own set of expertises right now. There's so many issues with accessibility, with multiple device computing. There's a lot happening in the front end. And I think for a long time it was, well, the back end people can do some of the front end work. I think it's much more specialized now. And I think organizations have to be ready to take on the front end as a huge, difficult set of technologies that are not just what somebody learned after they did the back end stuff. So I think the real risk in the front end is, you know, can you find the people? You know, you can put out a front end and then get sued because it wasn't accessible, you know, or can you really handle all these kinds of devices that your content could appear upon? So I think the risk is not taking the front end seriously because you may have a back end oriented culture in your organization, and you really need to do some homework on what's involved. Can you find the people? What are the risks on the front end in terms of what people expect from a front end now, which has changed over the years?
That's great. Russ, anything to add there?
Yeah, I definitely love a lot of Ed's answers there. Definitely the technologies are becoming much more specialized, and having somebody that getting the right technologies out there, finding people for the technologies is probably going to be the biggest thing, is making sure that you're choosing technologies that you can actually bring people in for, but just as importantly, choosing technologies that people want to continue to work with. So using some of these older technologies that we were talking about, for example, I was just reading an article about Silverlight. There's still so many products out there that are using Silverlight on the Microsoft platform, but it's becoming harder and harder to find people who will want to work on it because it is such an old technology that's been out of service for so long. So your recruitment and your engagement of your employees, to me, is just as important as choosing the right technology, is making sure that you have the right skill sets, you have the people in place, being able to bring in people if you need to, and keeping those people happy and engaged and working on that, the new technologies is very important.
Thank you. Great insights.